Hey guys, I am excited to be running the California International Marathon in a week, and we know how important that hydration and fueling strategy is for a marathon, so that's what I'm going to talk about in this video today. So guys, it's really important to remember that fueling and hydration starts long before your marathon race. Not just that morning, but think a week before. So as I'm tapering this week, I am really focusing on drinking lots of water, getting in a lot of electrolytes, probably through noon, as well as eating lots of carbs. This is not the time to be weighing yourself or worrying about if you're weighing more than you want to be weighing, because that's actually going to work to your benefit when it comes to race day. Having a little bit of extra weight on race day, a few pounds, is totally fine. Don't worry about having more carbs than you think you need to have, because it's very common in tapering, especially, to get in our heads about the fact that we're running less and eating the same and not working it off. You need to get that out of your head. If your goal is to do your very best in your marathon, you need to focus on eating well this week, making sure that you're getting in those carbs that are easy to digest, and that's going to make a big difference when it comes to your race and not hitting that wall. So think about lots of hydration, good nutrition as you are going into race day. Now, the morning of, I usually like to have a banana as well as something like a bagel with peanut butter, or I eat an RX bar. Usually any of those work for me. So I recommend for you doing what you've been doing before your long run. So I'm gonna be doing the same thing that I've been doing. Just because I'm doing this doesn't mean you should suddenly be doing this on race day. Now, if you're in the middle of training and you want to try something like an RX bar or that banana with peanut butter or white bagel with peanut butter, then definitely recommend it, as I think it's a great go-to breakfast. So I'm probably going to be eating that about an hour and a half before the race. And then I'll be getting ready for the race, getting to the start line, that type of thing. So as I go into the start of the race, just before, I am going to eat one gel. So I like to use Huma gels. I actually don't have a caffeinated one right now, but I'm gonna be using a caffeinated Huma gel. Going back to earlier in the day, I definitely drink coffee. I will be drinking my coffee that morning, getting woken up. I need that caffeine for that. So right before the race, I'm going to take one Huma gel, just so I can get a little bit of extra caffeine and that last boost of calories. So I would recommend for you to be trying this in training. It's something that works really, really well for me before my marathon. Now, talking more about nutrition throughout the race, a good rule of thumb is to think about taking in one gel for every hour of the race you plan to run. I usually like to do a little bit more than that, but that's a good starting point. Now, again, it's going to be different for everyone because we don't all weigh the same. If you are bigger and you weigh more, you're going to need more calories than someone who is smaller and weighs less. That's why it's so important to try these things out during your long runs so that you know exactly what you're doing on race day. For me personally, I am going to be taking a gel at around 45 to 50 minutes. So thinking maybe around that 6 mile mark, I will be taking in a regular Huma gel, which I always take with water. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about hydration in a minute though. Then I will be taking another gel around 12 miles in, maybe a little bit farther out. And for that one, I'm going to be planning on taking an electrolyte gel, because at that point, it's going to be starting to warm up. I want to make sure I have enough electrolytes in my system to counteract any of that extra sweating that I'm going to be doing. I don't love the taste of these, but they are important to take in. I also recommend having salt tablets on hand. I usually don't take them. I will probably have a couple on me just in case. Then I'm going to be taking another gel, probably around 18 to 20 miles. So my fueling is a little bit different because I also use Tailwind. So this one might actually come even a little bit later, 2021, and I might this time have a fourth one on me just in case. It's just a matter of having enough pockets to hold all that, which make sure you're watching my last video in this series, which is all about what I'm going to be wearing for the marathon. So beyond these 3, maybe 4 gels that I'm going to be taking in the marathon, I will also have Tailwind. So I'm gonna have 2 water bottles on me. These go in the pockets of my shorts, which I'll talk about in what I'm wearing video. And I'm gonna have water in one of them. I'm gonna have Tailwind in the other one. So these are 8.5-ounce bottles. I use the same strategy for my marathon in June. And I am going to make a heavily concentrated mixture of Tailwind. So even though you're only supposed to put 2 to 3 scoops in 24 ounces of water, I am going to put 3.5 scoops in just 8.5 ounces of water. So it's still liquid, if you're wondering about that, but yes, it is extremely, extremely sweet. However, this just gives me another option to sip on throughout, so I am not only using the gels, which is really important to me to make sure that I'm getting in enough calories. So this summer, it worked really well to have 3 gels and then have that with the Tailwind, but I also had some Gatorade at the end of that race, which is when I get down to those last couple miles, if it's available and I want it, I just take it. You're just in a totally different frame of mind at that point, and I don't worry too much about my stomach at that point. But as far as caloric needs for me, this works really, really well and makes sure that I am not hitting the wall in the marathon and that I have enough calories so that I still have energy at the end of that race. Now, more importantly, having energy at the race comes from pacing well as your training. So make sure you check out my pacing video, which was the first video in this series, if you want some recommendations on that. Okay, so let's talk about hydration next. So in the other water bottle, I am going to be having just plain water because I want to have access to plain water for the majority of the race, especially that first half, even when the aid stations aren't around. And that's just because if I want to take a gel when I'm not in an aid station, then I want to make sure that I'm having it with water. So I love having this extra water bottle just in case without having to take a bulky hydration vest. Beyond that, I'm going to follow the same strategy that I followed for my marathon in June, which was to essentially take water at every aid station. I don't think I took it at the first one and the last one, but I took it at every other one in between. And I walked through these aid stations to take in the water, which is about 10 seconds of walking, just so I could take the water in slowly and not choke on it, and then move on. And I still was able to get a PR and a BQ time. And so I highly recommend this strategy. I know that it can kind of seem like it's not a good strategy or it's going to slow you down, but you easily make up that time. So I just think it gives you a good moment to just kind of pause, regroup, get your water, and then get on your way. So it's something I would recommend trying out in your long runs to see if it works well for you. This also ensures that you're getting enough water throughout the race, as opposed to you get kind of, if you're always sipping on something or if you're skipping aid stations, you're probably not getting the water that you need. So we want to make sure that we have really good hydration going into race day. I think sometimes we forget that energy also has to do with being hydrated, not just training and pacing and nutrition, but being well hydrated as well. So make sure that you are getting ahead of your intake. You don't need to overdo it. You really just need to be consistent. So I like to think about little bits all throughout instead of just drinking a whole bunch at a time is a much better way to go. This will make sure that you are fully hydrated even on those warmest days, and it'll all work out and be super balanced if you're following a hydration or nutrition strategy similar to what I have here. If you guys do have questions about anything that I'm doing, I would be happy to answer them. Make sure you guys check out the next video in this series, which is all about what I'm going to be wearing for CIM and what I recommend wearing for a marathon. And with that, I am going to be continuing on with this taper, prepping for this marathon, and I will catch you guys in the next video.